Space. It's a wondrous thing that is barely known to mankind, but we are making progress. Recently, Scott Kelly came back to Earth from the International Space Station. Now we go over to Zane for more details.
Scott Kelly was born on February the 21st, 1964, making him 52 years old. He came back to Earth after a record 340 days on the International Space Station and has been on 11 other space missions in his life. He was sent up there as an experiment to see what would happen to a human being in space for a year, which is how long it will take to get to Mars. In space, there is less gravity, which leads to less compression on the spine. That made him 2 inches taller. Also, he came back 8.6 milliseconds younger than he would if he hadn't left.
On the 14th of March, the space probe ExoMars will be launching. It has a highly sensitive detector to determine whether methane exists in high levels on the surface or atmosphere of Mars.
The aim of the mission is to find hotspots of methane, which could be an indication to life on the red planet. European Space Agency scientists have collaborated with Russian counterparts and designed ExoMars.
This is one half of a double mission. The second probe will be launching in 2018.
Pulsars are types of neutron stars. However, the difference between pulsars and regular neutron stars is that they're highly magnetized and rotating at enormous speeds.
The creation of a pulsar is very similar to the creation of a neutron star.
When a massive star dies, it explodes and the outer layers are blasted into space, whilst the inner core contracts down with its gravity. The gravitational pressure is so strong that it overcomes the bond that keeps the atoms apart.
The first pulsar was discovered in 1967 by Jocelyn Bell Burnell and Anthony Hewis.
These people detected ominous radio emissions from the star so regularly that they believed it was attempted communication from an intelligent alien species.
How do you think the data received from Scott Kelly's return will help us in the future?
I think the data he's collected is really interesting. This is the first real set of data that we've had from the space station. We already know that he is 2 inches taller since his trip because of the lack of gravity, which is really fascinating in itself. Yeah. And also how he's aged. His aging process has been different because of the time differences between travel. And actually teaching us how humans can survive in space is really interesting because the reality is at some point in the future we will need to look for somewhere else to live. The human race is going to survive. So the data from him is going to, is really going to lead the research and lead the way forward on that. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's really interesting.
I agree with you. And what do you think of the money that's being spent to other planets exploration when this planet still needs some work?
Well, quite absolutely. This planet, we know more about space at the moment than we do about our own planet, about deep sea diving and deep sea exploration. So the money that's going into NASA is huge. It's a huge part of the American budget, but also other countries working with them. I think you can never put enough money into these sorts of trips. When you look at how much it's costing to send someone into space, the more money would just allow you to do more things. So I think at the moment we're at a point where they really are going to decide, do we want to go and explore further with man and other planets, or do we want to use machinery that we can send to these other planets?
That's a very interesting opinion. And what do you think about the recent discovery of methane on Mars? Do you think it could lead to anything significant?
Well, I love space science, as you know, and I think that this is fascinating. I think this is a really exciting time. I think not only does it teach us a lot about the planet and how the planet's evolved and what it's become now, but also, some of the chemistry and how we understood the chemistry on other planets is being changed and revolutionised by this discovery. And I think it's teaching us a lot about the future, not only what's happened in the past, but also where we're going in the future with space science and how we're going to discover these gases and what it means if we look at putting humans on other planets, what does it mean about us in the future? I think it's fascinating, I think it's great, and hopefully it's an area of science that they're going to keep researching.
Thank you for talking to me today.
Pleasure, enjoyed it.
Space. We don't know much about it, but our understanding is being developed. I'm Morgan, and this is our BBC School.